All right, let me ask you a question, man.
Yeah.
All right, so when you were or when you are trying to when you meet a woman and you desiring to get to know her or you're desiring to get to know each other, are there any questions that you shouldn't ask or that should be off limit and for her as well?
For me, at the beginning, I'd say, yeah, there's some questions you probably shouldn't ask, like on a first date or when you first meet somebody. Like asking about financial, like how much money somebody make, that ain't something you would ask on the first date. You can ask them what they do for a living, but asking for specific dollar amounts, I think is inappropriate. Same thing with like previous relationships. You can ask them, you know, when was the last time you was in a relationship or something, but once they speak on that, you don't need to really go any further and be getting into specifics like, well, my last boyfriend, da 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 da, or my last girl, da da. Like, you don't need to get into specifics because then that person is going to perceive it as you still hooked up, you still hooked on that person. You know what I'm saying? You might derail the whole date talking about your ex, so you don't want to go there. So for me, there are certain things that you might not want to mention at the very beginning, and that's just how I see it.
Oh, okay, that's peace, that's peace. Hey, but like you just said, you just mentioned the fact that the not asking about the finances, the income,
Yeah.
right? But isn't that kind of by default what a woman or a man might do to a woman? Isn't it by default what they might be asking when they ask what their job field is?
I mean, most people probably know a range of what certain job fields,
Yes.
but that's all you need. You don't need a specific dollar amount is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because, you know, obviously some people are hooked on, you know, how much money someone makes. And really that don't really mean much. You know what I'm saying? Certain people feel like it means something to them, but the difference between 80,000 and 100,000 and 120,000 really ain't that much when you consider taxes. But to certain people, oh wait, they gotta make 100,000 before I talk to them. Well, someone making 80 might have more money than that person making 100. So if you just ask, you know what you do for a living, I think that general answer should be enough for you to determine if that's somebody you interested in.
Okay. So now here go the cold part, man, because you said something that was really interesting. You used a word in there. You said on the first date.
Yeah.
Right? So when is the first date after you meet a person? Because I think that could determine a lot of different things about what that first date's conversation is about. So when is the first date to you after you meet somebody? Because in the first date, when you start diving in?
Well, I guess it depends on how you meet. So if you meet somebody online, let's say you chat 2 or 3 times online, and then you meet in person, that's the first date to me.
Yeah.
If you meet somebody in the club or out somewhere at a bar, the next time y'all meet in person is the first date for me.
Okay. So what are the questions that you should ask in between that? Like say you meet so you met somebody online. A lot of people are meeting online these days, one way or another, right? And so when you meet somebody online, what is that conversation like? Is it just like, hey, what you doing? What school did you go to? I mean, what's that conversation like?
Yeah, I think it's more
in general.
General questions like, you know, what you do for a living, what side of town you live on, what do you do for fun? You know, just typical banter. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to get too serious or too direct with any specific questions if you ain't even, because let's say y'all ain't even vibing even just in the general chat. You might not ever even meet the person and you know, after that. You're oh man, she foul. She said something crazy and we wasn't even talking about nothing specific.
Right.
So there's no need to get specific or get direct with somebody and you might not even meet them. So I say you keep it light, keep it general, banter, try to just catch that vibe, and then when you meet in person, you can build off of the banter that you started, you know, in the messaging.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Don. I was just agreeing with what homie was saying.
Okay. Let me ask this question then, right?
Yeah.
And this is another question I didn't ask anybody, but I want to know. I just think this like what your thoughts on it are. I know this isn't your situation, but what your thoughts on this are. Like we just mentioned, meeting someone online. A lot of people are meeting online these days. Facebook, all these different social media things. People got they getting down online.
All right.
Should the conversation be different because you met this person because they might be in a different state, or should the conversation be as opposed to being in your hometown, and the speed of the conversation too, and I'll tell you why after you answer.
So you saying if you meet somebody who live in another state, should the conversation be different than if you met somebody in your hometown, but both you met online?
Yeah.
To me, the only difference is you might just ask a few more questions as far as what they like, what they do on a day-to-day basis to see, how they are in their town. Because obviously, if you ask somebody who lives here what they do and they tell you, you're going to know, oh yeah, I know that spot, I know this and that. But someone out of town, if they say, well, I go here and here, that ain't going to mean nothing to you if you ain't never been there before. So you might, get a little more specific, like, well, what kind of spot is that, or just, start off maybe asking them what do they like to do, and then once they give you that, you might get a general idea. Other than that, I guess you could just see, ask them like how their weekends are, because if somebody's out of town, most likely you don't even be able to hook up with them on the weekend. Mm-hmm. So you might want to find out what their weekend schedule is, whereas someone who lives in your state or your city, you can hook up with them on a Monday night, Tuesday night, whenever. Like you don't have to really structure it so tight because they're more accessible.
Yeah. And that was the reason why I asked you that too, because I thought about that like when you just were speaking, like a person out of town. In the beginning, I'm not gonna really want to know much because we're not gonna be able to connect that fast.
Right.
Say this woman lives in California. You know what I'm saying? But I met her online. I'm digging her. We having good conversation, but the conversation not gonna go that deep.
Right.
Because it could just be it could all be a fantasy or fairy tale. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to somebody in the town where you meet them online, but they only 5 miles away.
Right. And
you can be like, hey, you know what? I go over to the coffee spot. Let's meet over there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now the conversation might be, we might dive into the 12-foot section as opposed to diving into the 3-foot section. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what that online brings these days. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because online give you a little bit more room to get to know them.
Yeah.
So by the time you do get to know them, by the time you meet them, you would have known everything about them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, that's like when I meet somebody online, man, the farther they're away, the less I know. And the longer I'm cool with it taking.
Yeah.
If I met somebody in my town, man, I need to know everything right away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we ain't got no gap between us that we can't meet.
Yeah. But you can also look at it like this. Yeah. If you meet somebody from another state and your intention is really just to get to know them, and okay, we ain't gonna see each other for a month, but I know I'm gonna see you in a month, you might get a lot out of the conversations leading up to that.
Yeah.
Because you got that expectation, you got that kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the butterflies, like you get to think about it, like, okay, I get to see her in a couple of weeks. So like you start asking questions that, you know what I'm saying, might give you a little more insight so you can, when you do meet, it'll be better. You know what I'm saying? That anticipation.
Okay.
It could build that. So if it's just somebody you just meet from another state and it's just you met her on accident, or, they really wasn't on your radar, but y'all, linked up on the website or something, and y'all just shooting the shit, then yeah, I could see like you ain't gonna put a whole bunch of effort in to get a bunch of information out of them because you might not even meet them. But if it's like somebody you really think like, okay, yeah, we gonna meet, we gonna hook up, then I feel like that time in between before y'all meet can be big.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? You can really get a lot of information out of them. You might even FaceTime. You might even do some other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because you know you finna meet them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, let me ask this is the last question I might ask. Unless Doc want to ask anything. But this is my last one. Okay, when you first meet somebody, right? What is the most thought of off-limit question that you want to ask them?
The most thought of off-limit question.
The question that you think about,
but you know you can't ask it.
You don't want to. You like, I ain't no fucking that. I'm leaving that off the table this time. What's the question that you would?
That's easy. When was the last time you had sex?
Okay. Literally, that's where the question derived from.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking about a person asking a question about sex, right? Because in the beginning, unless you at the club and you just, trying to just knock her off that night and then see where it go.
Yeah.
The question comes from her being able to ask you about the last time you had sex, or are you having sex with somebody while we're getting to know each other?
Right.
Right. So since you just said that, when do you ask then? Because you said that's off limits.
Yeah.
For you.
At the beginning, the first date, that's off limits.
Okay.
Unless, so if you had a date, like you say you had dinner or drinks, and they're, y'all just talking, I think that's inappropriate to ask. But if it's the first date and y'all done already had the drinks and y'all back at her place or your place, and y'all getting touchy-feely, then it ain't off limits.
Yeah, sometimes it just come up.
Yeah, like for me, that question can be asked once y'all about to take it to that level. So
Okay.
if y'all about to get physical, you can ask that because, hey, I got my health come into play here. So I need to know. I need to know if you safe. I need to know if you out here wild. But if y'all just talking and bantering and just having a general conversation, it really ain't relevant at that moment.
Okay. Yes, please. You want to add on, Doc?
Like I said, if y'all at if y'all off for drinks or whatever, sometimes that question is just nobody coming to the meet straight up meeting to ask it, but shoot, y'all kick it on y'all on the date or whatever. Shoot, sometimes it just come out on its own. Nobody asks it just come up.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation can lead to sexual conversation without it being I ask you, you ask me, specific. It could just be a general topic.
Yeah.
And then it lead into that, and then you can start, saying, like you said, one question can spark a whole new conversation, you know what I'm saying, that leads to other stuff. So, I mean, that's what banter is, really. Like,
That's right.
You pop one question off, they answer. It don't necessarily have to mean now you got to turn the question around back on me. Right. That can just, something in your answer can spark another conversation. So, like you said, sex, while if you just come straight, you order the first drink, y'all sit down, and then you like, hey, so when was the last time? Like that it ain't gonna flow like that. Now, if y'all just, talking, laughing, and then something come up, and then sex is part of that conversation, and both of y'all cool, you can tell both people are kind of just like not taking it that serious, then it could go wherever you want it to go.
Okay. Yeah, that's peace. That's crazy because that leads to my last statement. I'm not even going to make a question out of it. But since this is the True Live 2 YouTube channel, I'm not going to mention any other hosts that I might see on any of the social media platforms. But there is one young lady, while she's on her show, she actually asked that question. Mm-hmm. She asked the question, when was the last time you was intimate with someone?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then she give them the option of answering or not answering.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes they answer. And one young lady said this morning, you know what I'm saying? She on a dating show, and she said she had sex that morning.
Yeah.
It was the craziest thing. Like, I don't want to hear that.
Right.
You know what I'm not okay. So like, okay, me and this lady talking. If I meet her today, and then she says, I said, well, you know, when the last time you been intimate with somebody? She said, well, this morning. I'd be like, okay, cool, because I met her today.
Yeah.
But if I met her a week ago and I say, okay, we hanging out, and the topic come up, and I asked her when's the last time you was intimate with somebody, and she'd be like, oh, this morning. And this shit out of order now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we've been chopping it up. I'm investing my time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And as is she,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then really, she not investing her time. She investing a little bit of her time,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm investing all my time. And I ain't got time for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say peace on that one. Peace.